food, baseball food, pizza, wings, and beer. You know, you can bring your kids in and, you know, they can play pool or play the video games, or they can sit with you and watch TV too, because you got the TVs in every dining room. It's such a place that you can come in with your family and sit down. And again, it's family oriented because it's family owned. When you walk in here, it's like a TV show, Cheers. Everybody knows your name. And you can expect that from in here because everybody knows everybody else.
Sideline Guys back on the air at sidelineguys.recordernews.com, brought to you by our friends, as always, Crystal Ristorante, 72 Lion Street here in the city of Amsterdam. Best pizza in the area. I'm Mark Robards along with Adam Schinder, and of course we want to talk a little bit about the NCAA tournament and the wild weekend that was, but we're going to focus much of the show today on Major League Baseball. Opening day just 3 days away now. We've got our picks that we want to share with you. We'll do that, though, after we talk briefly about the NCAA tournament. And what can you say? This was just one of the weirdest weekends I've ever seen in the NCAA tournament, which is wild enough to begin with.
Just a bizarre tournament so far. You've got an 8 seed and an 11 seed playing each other for the right to go to the national championship game. And to let you know how out of whack this tournament is, of the close to 6 million people registered on ESPN.com for their tournament challenge, exactly 2 have these 4 teams in the Final Four.
And I believe for only the 3rd time since they've done seedings, no number 1 seeds made it to the Final Four, believe it or not.
Yeah, and the first time ever, no number 1s or number 2s.
That's right, no number 2s either. Never didn't realize that. But anyway, let's take a look. On one side of the bracket, you've got it's the upstart bracket with VCU and Butler. On the other side, it's the more traditional bracket with UConn and Kentucky.
Yeah, I could not be more impressed with the job done by both Butler and by VCU. Butler, they've kind of been hanging on by the skin of their teeth throughout this tournament, with the exception of the game against Wisconsin when they still had to hold off a comeback at the end. They've gotten lucky a few times. They win a game by 1 over Virginia Commonwealth, by 2 over, real close over Pittsburgh. They play such good team defense. And then you've got VCU that is just running these elite programs out of the gym. And it's unbelievable because you've got VCU's 33-year-old head coach Shaka Smart, Butler's 34-year-old head coach Brad Stevens looking like a math teacher on the sideline.
And then there's Jim Calhoun, 69 years older than the 2 of them combined, and bringing probably the hottest team in all of college basketball into the Final Four against maybe one of the best young teams in all of college basketball in Kentucky and John Calipari.
Yeah, Calipari knows how to get a recruiting class in there, and Brandon Knight has really come of age in this tournament. Just a tremendous job they did, sort of just shucking off every North Carolina attempt at a rally with a big 3 yesterday. Very, very impressed by how much that team has matured. And you're looking at a Connecticut team with just Kemba Walker is absolutely on fire right now. He's named first-team AP All-American today.
There's a big surprise,
and it's going to be interesting because you're going to be guaranteed to get that blue blood against the underdog. It's going to be a very fun game Monday night, no matter the matchup.
And who do we like? Well, you'll have to tune back in on Thursday for our webcast to find out who we picked for both the semifinal games and for the national championship. Right now, though, we want to switch gears. As I said, Thursday, opening day, Yankee fans, like us Sox fans, we got to wait till Friday, but still, kind of weird having this midweek start to the regular season, but this is always my favorite time of year.
Oh, yeah, you can smell the pine tar and the discarded sunflower seeds already.
All right, let's start out in the American League, share our picks with you. American League East, I know you Yankee fans are going to be sending us texts and tweeting us to death, but we both like the Red Sox in this case. And to me, it doesn't come down to the addition of Adrian Gonzalez and Carl Crawford. What it comes down to with me is it comes down to those 4 and 5 spots in the starting rotation. You've got Daisuke Matsuzaka and Beckett on one side for the Red Sox. On the other side, you've got Ivan Nova and Freddie Garcia. I think that tells the difference between the 2 teams. Their offenses, it's a push. Their bullpens give a little bit of an edge as a closer to Rivera over Papelbon, but generally bullpen's a push as well. So it comes down to those 2 spots in the rotation.
Yeah, I got to go with you there. I think the Red Sox just have that little more balance across the lineup. I think the Yankees lineup is starting to get a little bit older at spots. Alex Rodriguez has been tearing it up in spring training, but I'm someone who doesn't put very much stock at all in stats coming out of spring training. Looking at the AL Central, I've got the Chicago White Sox simply because I think you put that much power in the middle of that lineup with healthy Carlos Quentin, Adam Dunn, Paul Konerko. You could have the possibility for 120 home runs between the three of them.
I like the Minnesota Twins in the AL Central. I think it's a three-team dogfight between those two teams and the Detroit Tigers. But Minnesota, I like the experience. I like the fact that they've been there, that they've shown they can do it. I think Joe Mauer is probably the best overall player in the game. Justin Morneau, if he's healthy, if he's over the concussion problems, is a real strong anchor to that lineup as well. I think that's just enough to carry him through. In the West, I like Texas again. I think if they can piece together a rotation, a loss of Cliff Lee is really going to hurt. But if they can piece together any semblance of a rotation, I think that offense is just dominating enough that they can carry them past an Oakland team that I think is a year away from being just phenomenal.
Yeah, the AL West tends to be a little unpredictable at points. I remember, this time last year, you had a bunch of people touting the Seattle Mariners, who ended up being one of the worst teams offensively in the history of the league. And so I'll go with Oakland. I like that young pitching. I like Andrew Bailey at the back of the bullpen. He's had a couple injury problems here and there in spring training. And then the AL wild card, I think it comes down to, for me, the Yankees and Rangers. And I'll go with the Yankees simply because I think you've got, even though they've only got 3 definite starters, and when one of that's A.J. Burnett, you can have a problem. But they've got a team that can be a 6-inning game with that bullpen.
Yeah, I think it's just a shame that the second best team in baseball is also the second best team in their own division. I think there's so much quality talent in the American League, and there's such a depth of talent in the National League, I think, team-wise, that it really does. There are teams like Tampa Bay, even the Orioles and the Blue Jays, that really could be legitimate contenders in the National League as well. Speaking of which, let's go over to the National League. And at least I really can't pick against Philadelphia. There's such a gap between them and the rest of the NL East, especially when you're talking about a pitching staff. And I know you talk about 4 deep, but I'll even go 5 deep with Joe Blanton and say this staff matches up with the great Orioles staffs of the late 60s and early 70s.
Yeah, I mean, I can't pick against this team. I remember talking to my father after the Phillies came out of the clouds and signed Cliff Lee back in December. And it's a little optimistic to say this, but this is a team that should not have a 3-game losing streak all season long.
I'd be surprised if there were a lot of 2-game losing streaks.
They're going to have some adjustments to make offensively with the lack of Jason Worth in the middle, with Chase Utley's injury. I don't like the fact that they're really, really heavy left-handed, and I think Atlanta, with the signing of Dan Uggla, has become a better team, but their Phillies are the class of this division and will probably win it going away.
NL Central, I like Cincinnati. I just can't say enough about the young talent they have on that team. Joey Votto, the defending National League MVP. You've got Jay Bruce, who I think is poised for a breakout season this year, and maybe the most exciting pitcher in generations in Aroldis Chapman, hitting 105 miles an hour. But just as important to me is the fact that they've got great leadership both on the bench in Dusty Baker and in the front office in Walt Jocketty. This team is poised to be a great team for years to come.
Yeah, I really like Cincinnati as well. Without the Adam Wainwright injury, the Cardinals could contend in that division. The Cubs are always a strange team because they're the Cubs. They have multiple personality disorder every single year.
Yeah.
The back end of that division, when you look at Houston's got a decent young pitching rotation. Milwaukee got Zach Greinke, and then you've got the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Right. Now, National League West, I like the defending champs. San Francisco, once again, another team like the Phillies with a dominating rotation, and I think a real depth, real gap between them and the rest of that division, although I know you don't agree.
Yeah, it's just, not that I don't, I think the San Francisco Giants can certainly win that division again. It's just, whenever I look out west, those teams just seem to play musical chairs. And I like the young talent in Colorado. I love Troy Tulowitzki, who I've got as my National League MVP. Carlos Gonzalez was an MVP candidate a year ago. And Ubaldo Jimenez is one of the best pitchers in the league. I really like that team.
Wild card, I'm going to go with St. Louis, even without Adam Wainwright. I think they're the best of the rest out there. Like I said, there's a big gap between, I think, the top 3 teams and the rest of the league. I think St. Louis is at the top of that.
Yeah, I'll take, picking out of a hat, I'll go the Braves over a field that includes St. Louis, San Francisco, maybe even the Dodgers, if they can get over some of their issues.
NL champion? I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I just think that they're that talented. I think the leadership is that good. I've got them just a little bit ahead of the Phillies.
Yeah, I'll go with the Phillies simply because I can't bring myself to not pick them. Although I think you and I both have the Boston Red Sox winning the World Series regardless.
Yeah, I've got them as the AL champion by just a hair over the Yankees, and world champion as well. I think the Sox finally get their revenge 35 years after getting jobbed out of the World Series in '75.
We'll be back with talk a little bit more, talk about who we've got for our postseason awards. We'll talk about that Thursday, along with some discussion about the Final Four, and we'll get into the high school sports season, everything starting up this week and next week. So until next time, for Mark, I'm Adam, and we'll see you next time at SidelineGuys.recordernews.com.
Brought to you by the Crystal Ristorante, 72 Lion Street, Amsterdam.